Hello, YouTubers and NFL fans everywhere. This is Matt, the NFL Fanatic, giving you my Week 7 2017 NFL predictions. Well, this week for the Fanatic, it was a rough week overall in terms of my record. Both against the spread and straight up, I went 5-9. That is probably one of the worst weeks I've had in a very long time. That equals 36% both ways. And now overall for the year, I am 40-48-2 against the spread, and I'm now 52-39 straight up. I think a lot for what happened this week was due to just the craziness of the league this year. I think for the first time in a long time this early in the year, the entire AFC and NFC is a toss-up. With the Chiefs losing, there's now no more undefeated teams, so the 1972 Dolphins can celebrate with their champagne. But right now, if you had to tell me who the best team in the NFL was, I would say, shout out to T.J. Harmon and his team, Oren Gremberg as well, if you check out his picks. The Philadelphia Eagles are the best football team, followed by the New England Patriots at 2, the the Pittsburgh Steelers at 3, the Chiefs at 4, and the Seattle Seahawks at 5. But throughout the whole year, after you get through the Eagles right now, every other team has its ups and downs. And, it's kind of like, which one do you pick? So it's a great parody, but it's a lot of, we don't know the real, who is that one clear team. Right now it's Philadelphia. Heck, next week it could be New England. Next week it could be Minnesota. Who knows? But that's how crazy this year has been. So I'm running a little short on time here, so if I can't go through last week or talk about last week like I usually do, but so now it is time for my picks. And I guess I'll say one more time, overall for the year, I am 40-48-2 now against the spread, and 52-39 straight up. So that equals 45% against the spread and 57% straight up. Rough week, rough time, but I will bounce back hopefully this week with a lot of confident games. Alright, it's time for my picks. So on Thursday, when the 5-1 Kansas City Chiefs go to the 2-4 Oakland Raiders, the Kansas City Chiefs are 2.5-point favorites in this game. I like Kansas City here, -2.5, and Kansas City straight up. And then the next game, when the 2-3 Tampa Bay Buccaneers go to the 3-2 Buffalo Bills, the Buffalo Bills are 3-point favorites in this game. I like the Buffalo Bills here, -3, and the Buffalo Bills straight up. And then the next game, when the 4-2 Carolina Panthers go to the 2-4 Chicago Bears, the Carolina Panthers are 3.5-point favorites in this game. I'm going to take the Chicago Bears here, +3.5, but the Carolina Panthers straight up. And then the next game, when the 3-3 Tennessee Titans go to the 0-6 Cleveland Browns, the Tennessee Titans are 5.5-point favorites in this game. I like Tennessee here, -5.5, and Tennessee straight up. And then the next game, when the 3-2 New Orleans Saints go to the 4-2 Green Bay Packers, the New Orleans Saints are 6-point favorites in this game. I like Green Bay here, +6, but I'm going to take the New Orleans Saints straight up. And then the next game, when the 3-3 Jacksonville Jaguars go to the 2-4 Indianapolis Colts, the Jacksonville Jaguars are 3-point favorites in this game. I like Jacksonville here, -3, and Jacksonville straight up. Then the next game, when the 3-3 Arizona Cardinals go to the 4-2 Los Angeles Rams, the LA Rams are 3.5-point favorites in this game. I like Arizona here, +3.5, but I'm going to take the LA Rams here straight up. And then the next game, when the 3-3 New York Jets go to the 3-2 Miami Dolphins, the Miami Dolphins are 3.5-point favorites in this game. I like the New York Jets here, +3.5, but I'm going to take the Miami Dolphins straight up. Then the next game, when the 3-3 Baltimore Ravens go to the 4-2 Minnesota Vikings, the Minnesota Vikings are 5.5-point favorites in this game. I like Baltimore here, +5.5, but I'm going to take the Minnesota Vikings straight up. Then the next game, when the 2-3 Cincinnati Bengals go to the 4-2 Pittsburgh Steelers, the Pittsburgh Steelers are 5-point favorites in this game. I like Pittsburgh here, -5, and Pittsburgh straight up. And then the next game, when the 2-3 Dallas Cowboys go to the 0-5 the 0-6 San Francisco 49ers, The Dallas Cowboys are 4.5-point favorites in this game. I like San Francisco here, plus 4.5, but I'm going to take the Dallas Cowboys straight up. Then the next game, when the 3-2 Denver Broncos go to the 2-4 Los Angeles Chargers. The Los Angeles Chargers are 2-point favorites in this game. I like the Los Angeles Chargers here, -2, and the Los Angeles Chargers straight up. And then the next game, when the 3-2 Seattle Seahawks go to the 1-5 New York Giants. The Seattle Seahawks are 5.5-point favorites in this game. I like the New York Giants here, plus 5.5, but I'm going to take the Seattle Seahawks straight up. And then the next game, the Super Bowl rematch on Sunday Night Football, when the 3-2 Atlanta Falcons go to the 4-2 New England Patriots. The New England Patriots are 3-point favorites in this game. I like New England here, -3, and New England straight up. And then the Monday night game, when the 3-2 Washington Redskins go to the 4-2 Philadelphia Eagles. The Philadelphia Eagles are 4.5-point favorites in this game. I like the Philadelphia Eagles here, -4.5, and Philadelphia straight up. Alright, so time for my quick thoughts on each game. The Chiefs over the Oakland Raiders. The Kansas City Chiefs played a solid game against the Pittsburgh Steelers, but that defense got bum rushed by Le'Veon Bell, who ran for another 150-plus yards, and Antonio Brown had over 150 yards receiving. That was the first time for the Steelers they had two teammates that went 150, or the first time that Bell and Brown both had 150-plus scrimmage yards, and they are the first pair of teammates to have 700-plus scrimmage yards through 6 games in NFL history. Kareem Hunt had his lowest rushing game of the year, 9 carries for, I believe, 21 yards, but he did have another 100-plus yard scrimmage game since he was leading the team in scrimmage yards, and he's the first NFL running back to have his first 6 games to have 100-plus scrimmage yards. Tyreek Hill also had a negative rush in the game, the lowest amount of rushing yards in the game. I know it's kind of a peculiar stat, but he did have one rush for -9 yards. That's the lowest for his career. Kansas City is 26-3 against the rest of the NFL over the last 2 seasons, but they are 0-3 against Pittsburgh. And, Kansas City, they tend to rebound quite nicely from losses in the regular season over the last couple of years. They've won 12 straight games in their division, which is the longest streak in the NFL. And they're playing an Oakland team that's just not good. Oakland's lost 4 straight games for the first time since 2014, and they've been held under 20 points for 4 straight games. They were only held under 20 points only 3 times all of last year. Amari Cooper's been absolutely horrible. The last 4 games, Cooper only has 9 receptions for 51 yards combined in the last 4 games. Michael Crabtree can't be the main asset. Seth Roberts has gone away. Jared Cook has had 5 straight games under 50 yards. Derek Carr is hurt. And this defense, even though they are about middle of the pack in points allowed, they still can't stop the run, and they can't get any pressure. And at the worst times, that Raider defense will break and give up crucial first downs. And when you look at in 4 of the last 5 games against Kansas City, they've scored under 20 points. I think this game can be very interesting for the Chiefs, because it's kind of a nice rebound game, and they may, I wouldn't tell them, don't be overconfident against the Raider team that's at this point playing desperate for their playoff lives. But I'm going to take the Chiefs here just because I think on a short week they expect to have Tyreek Hill back. Alex Smith tends to rebound nicely in a sunny Oakland environment. And I think the Chiefs should get this win. Can Oakland put up a fight? Sure. Derek Carr, that might be a tough thing coming off a short week, especially with his back injury still not being fully healed. And, Derek Carr is going to put his heart and soul into this, since his only win against the Chiefs was in 2014, his rookie year. But I just think the Chiefs, they have a solid running game and one of the worst run defenses, and that solid, consistent team is going to be able to beat a better, struggling, more middling team in the Oakland Raiders. Should be an interesting game, but KC, clearly the better team, has played more consistent, and Oakland just a huge disappointment. They're probably the NFC version of the New York Giants, in my opinion. So that's all I like KC here, -2.5, and KC straight up. Next game, Bills over Bucks. This is very simple for me. Jameis Winston has an AC sprain joint injury, and he is not going to practice at all this week, which likely means that Ryan Fitzpatrick is going to get the start. Ryan Fitzpatrick has a unique aspect for his career now. He is now only the 4th quarterback in NFL history to have thrown a touchdown pass for 7 different teams. The other 3 quarterbacks, Gus Frerotte, Chris Chandler, and Vinny Testaverde. It's also the 2nd highest amount of rushing yards given up by the Bucks in the last 2 years The only team that has ran for more yards against them are the Dallas Cowboys. The Bucs are 22nd in points and 30th in defensive yards. And O.J. Howard has been an absolute disappointment for the offense. I think it's kind of a struggle of the line not protecting well. Jameis isn't playing well. O.J. Howard only has 5 receptions for 107 yards and a touchdown. Levante David, congrats to him. He scored his 3rd career touchdown in his first game back coming off an injury. But I just look at this Bucs team, and it's not a well-coached team. It's not a well-disciplined team. And I look at the Buffalo Bills, and it's kind of the opposite. The Bucs have more explosive offensive weapons. They have more offensive talent, but the Bills have more sound defensive talent. The Bills have the number 1 ranked defense in the NFL right now. Charles Clay, their leading receiver, who is not playing due to I believe, an ankle injury he suffered in the last game, has 20 receptions, 258 yards, and that leads the team. But when you have an offense with LaShawn McCoy who could run it pretty well, Adrian Peterson just got 123 yards in his first game where he looked like the old Adrian Peterson. LaShawn McCoy can do that kind of damage. They have Zay Jones, they have O'Leary, they can move the ball in chains, and they have a good enough kicker in Hauschka, who has been the opposite of Patrick Murray and Nick Folk this year, because Hauschka's made 4 of 4 for 50-plus yard field goals, and I believe that's like a 56 and a 53-yarder as well, and Hauschka's really not known for his distance. The Bills are 11-7 in the last 18 home games as well. And I just look at the Bills, and I look at a more consistent team. Tampa, I put my faith in them against an Arizona team I thought was struggling, but the defense was absolutely horrible. Yes, the Bucs are going to play less talent against Buffalo, but I just think Buffalo has been more sound. They've been more consistent, and they're coming off a bye at home. I thought about some of that last week with like the Broncos coming at home, some other teams that are coming off bye that they lost. But I just trust this Bills team here. They played more solid, consistent football. They have a good game manager, and with Jameis probably being out, Ryan Fitzpatrick isn't going to be able to win that game against Buffalo in those conditions, even though he used to play for the Buffalo Bills. So that's why I like Buffalo here, minus 3, and Buffalo straight up. The next game, Panthers over Bears. This is an interesting trap game for me. I look at the Carolina Panthers, and I see a team that they have had good moments, but they've also had really bad moments as well. Cam Newton, in his last 4 games, he has 2 games with 3 touchdowns. I think no interceptions, and he has the other 2 games he had 3 interceptions. You look at the Panthers. They really couldn't run the ball. Cam was the leading rusher the last game. Christian McCaffrey was able to score his second straight game of a touchdown, so good for him. Calvin Benjamin was making decent plays, but at the big moments they just couldn't get enough going on, and the offensive line was having a tough time against one of the better front sevens in Philadelphia. And here's where the trap is. The Chicago Bears, they are a 2-4 football team, but they could very well clearly almost be 4-2 with how that team's played. They should have beat Atlanta, they could have beat Minnesota, and they beat Pittsburgh and they beat Baltimore. I want to congratulate Tariq Cohen. He became the first rookie Bears running back since Gale Sayers to throw for a touchdown. Also, before Trubisky threw that pass, the last 4 touchdowns the Bears scored were thrown by 4 different people. Mike Glennon, Pat O'Donnell, Trubisky, and Cohen. So, I thought that was an interesting stat when I found that out. I also want to congratulate the Bears running game. They have Jordan Howard ran for a career-high 170-plus yards. And when you look at the Bears' defense, they have a front 7 that can get a lot of pressure. Akeem Hicks, the guy they paid $48 million to in the offseason, got 4 years, $48 million, and he's proving to be worth every single dollar of that since he is leading the team in sacks with 5. Chicago's won 3 of the last 4 against the Panthers, and I would not be actually surprised if the Bears, with this kind of confidence with the offense, with the creativeness they're having in the offense, if they pulled off an upset against the Panther team, that can be up and down. But I'm going to take the Carolina Panthers because I believe that the Panthers have shown with their talent that they can improve enough or cause enough mistakes to let Cam capitalize to get a victory. Chicago has been a very hard out at home, and I would not be surprised if Chicago put this game to the wire. But with just Cam Newton, he should be getting, Dixon more confident. They should be motivated to come out against the Bears team that, a bit underrated, a bit overrated by some people, to give a good fight for this game. But I'm going to take the Panthers here. More experience, better quarterback, and I think Trubisky He's not going to be able to have the luck of the Panthers turning it over, because I don't think Cam is going to make the same mistakes that Flacco did, or just make the throws that Flacco did, because right now Cam Newton's in a much better spot than Joe Flacco. So that's why I like Chicago plus 3.5. I'm going to take the Carolina Panthers straight up. Next game, Titans over Browns. The Cleveland Browns are the worst football team in the NFL. Kevin Hogan looks absolutely awful. He made me miss Deshaun Kaiser. Kevin Hogan had 1 TD and 3 interceptions, and they only put up 3 points by going into the middle part of the fourth quarter. Then you get a pick six by Deshaun Watson, then they score another garbage time touchdown, and the Browns really blow. Deshaun Kaiser is still the second leading rusher on the team. The leading receiver is still Duke Johnson Jr., their running back. And I just think this Browns team, they have the best chance now with the New York Giants winning their game. The Niners will win a football game. They have played really well over the last 5 weeks to tell you that they will win a football game eventually. The Browns, not so much. And I do want to congratulate Jason McCourty, though. He did get his first pick six of his career. But they're playing a Titan team that looked up and down against the Colts. Mariota threw a pick six to John Simon. I think that was one of either his second or third pick six of his career. But Derrick Henry had his career night, first 100-yard rushing game, and the longest rush of his career was 72 yards. Taywan Taylor caught his first NFL touchdown of his career on a 53-yard pass from Mariota. And the defense caused some havoc. Wesley Woodyard for 33 tackles. He leads the team, and he's 13th in the league. He's been a great help. Kevin Byrd has been a really good player. Dory Jackson's now making some plays. And I just look at this Titans team, and I just feel like they have shown that they can be a more consistent and proven team. And even if Matt Castle was playing, and I remember how bad he was against the Miami Dolphins, I would have faith in Matt Castle to go against this Browns team, who looks like the worst team in the NFL to win this game. With Mariota playing, even though he's on a hamstring, it didn't look like it was that hindered to me. I'm going to take the Titans here just because Cleveland really blows. Hugh Jackson deserves to get fired at the end of this year because he has botched this horrible situation, and the general manager and coach needs to find another coach to get a better out of their assets. And they need to draft another quarterback because the quarterback that they have on the roster is not their long-term answer. So that's all I like the Tennessee Titans here, minus 5.5, and Tennessee Titans straight up. The next game, the Saints over the Packers. New Orleans Saints, for the first time in their franchise history, caused 3 defensive touchdowns. They are the first team since Baltimore in 2011 to have 3 defensive touchdowns in a game. They put up 52 points for the second time in 3 years. The other time they did it was in the Superdome against the New York Giants. And I believe Week 9 of the 2013 season when they beat the Giants 52-49. I look at the Saints, and that Saints defense reared its ugly head. They had a 45-10 lead early in the fourth quarter. The Lions were able to score 4 consecutive touchdowns to make it a game, and then thank God, Matt Stafford gets picked in the end zone by Cam Jordan. But I'm taking the Saints here just because what happened to Aaron Rodgers, the Green Bay Packers quarterback. Aaron Rodgers going down, and by the way, in my opinion, that was not a dirty play because what is Anthony Barr supposed to do? He hits him right in the left shoulder, and he falls on his right shoulder. He did not tackle into his right shoulder and place him down. He did not throw him. It was not like he was 5 steps away and he ran, and Rodgers stood there for a couple seconds. He hit him on a good play. You know what? It sucks that Rodgers went down. Wish him well. It's another big star out of the league. But don't criticize Anthony Barr. And you know what? Anybody that believes in karma, he got a concussion in the game against the Packers, and he's out of the game. So, you know what? Be happy that he's out. If you're a big Packers fan, you believe in karma, he went out of the game. But I don't think Anthony Barr committed a dirty play. That was a legal football play that I would have commended any of my defensive players to do, because that is in the bounds of the league. But now the Packers, this is only going to be their 7th starting quarterback in the last 25 seasons. They've had only 6 up to this point, which was the fewest since 1992. Brent Hundley also became the first QB to throw 3 INTs for Green Bay since Scott Tolzien did it in Week 11 of the 2013 season. And the Packers really struggled without Rodgers the last time in 2013. They went 2-4-1 without him. I think Hundley, he'll get a good test because the Saints defense is not very good at times, and I don't think they're going to get 3 turnovers like the Vikings did. But also at the same time, I just don't see Brent Hundley making enough plays that Drew Brees against this Packer defense, which has been very suspect at times this year, can do to win this game. I think Brent Hundley, you know what? It's a good opportunity for him, and it's against a very suspect defense that has been able to capitalize a lot on turnovers over the last 3 weeks. But if Hundley can get practice, he can make some plays against the Saints to make it competitive. But I'm going to take the Saints here. They have more momentum. They're really committing to the run. Mark Ingram had his first 100-yard game of the season. He had 2 touchdowns. They're not missing Adrian Peterson, and they look like they've gained their confidence back in that swagger in New Orleans that they can be a playoff threat. And definitely right now, you could argue neck and neck, or even with the Panthers lost to them, they are the best team in the NFC South right now. But that's why I like Green Bay here, +6, but New Orleans straight up. The next game, Jaguars over Colts. The Jaguars, this is an odd week. The Jaguars have shown this year, if it's an odd week, they'll play really well. The defense will show up. And, Leonard Fournette can run the ball pretty effectively, even though those things have been consistent. But Leonard Fournette became the first NFL running back in NFL history to have consecutive 75-plus yard carries for touchdowns. They also, in this game, had 2 scores within 25 seconds. That's the fastest in NFL history. Jags defense caused a lot of havoc through the air. Jared Goff only threw for 1 touchdown, I think 118 yards. But Todd Gurley ran on them very well with 118 yards on the ground. And they just get their kicker, Jason Myers, for Josh Lambo, the former Los Angeles Chargers kicker. And I look at the Jags, and the Jags win when they force turnovers. The Jags had 3 W's when they forced 1 or more turnover, and their 2 losses, they forced 1 or less. And I think with this Colts team, with Jacoby Brissett probably starting again, and he's looked better than people thought. Jacoby Brissett, was 4 for 4 for 50 yards against the Blitz going through the first half. He was very horrible against the Blitz last year. And the Colts had a chance to win. If Vinatieri doesn't miss his second PAT of the year, and Chuck Pagano and Brian Schottenheimer say, oh, hey, let's just do a QB sneak forward instead of doing an end around, which they did, the Colts maybe could have won this game. And the Colts scored their first defensive touchdown since Week 17 of the 2015 season, so kudos to Indy there. And Frank Gore is leading the team in rushing with 288 yards. He's played really well. Marlon Mack and him are splitting time, which is good for them. And Gore could be only the second running back in NFL history to lead his team for 13 consecutive seasons, which is really good. But I'm going to take the Jags here because I just trust this Jags defense to cause enough havoc in Indy. And it's their odd week, so I think Blake Bortles will play Blake Bortles positive than Blake Bortles negative. And I think the Jags can, do enough to get a win. It's this odd thing about them this year. Odd weeks, they look phenomenal. They look suffocating. The even weeks, they don't do well and they don't win. It's an odd week. I'm going to keep going with that. And I just think Indy, they may put some points up. Frank Gore and Mack may have a phenomenal game. They're playing one of the worst running defenses in the NFL. But I just got to trust that Jags defense to cause enough havoc and Saxonville to show up against a weak Indy offensive line to get the win for the Jags. So that's why I like Jacksonville here -3 and Jacksonville straight up. Next game, Rams over Cardinals. I want to congratulate Adrian Peterson for having a career renaissance day. He ran for 123 yards and 2 touchdowns. And for him, that's the 50th game of his career with 2 touchdowns and 100-plus yards. AP is also only 1 touchdown away from 100. And when you look at Palmer, Fitzgerald, and Peterson, the old over-the-hill 3, not the big 3, but the old over-the-hill 3, they had phenomenal games. Larry Fitzgerald had 128 yards in the first half. That's the most in a half for him since 2007, and he's 6th in receiving yards and 2nd in receptions. And you look at Carson Palmer, he had his best game as well. The Cardinals' defense can make plays, but just like with the Lions and Saints, the Cardinals' defense did show that it does have a weakness. Because they were up 31-0 on the Bucs, and by the end of the game, it was a 5-point win for the Cardinals. And I look at this Cardinal team, and I feel like they have confidence, and they gained some of their offensive linemen back, and they should be able to, put up a good fight against the Rams. However, what I've seen out of the Rams this year, it's a more consistent and solid product. The LA Rams are 4-2 for the first time since 2006. Pharaoh Cooper, I want to congratulate him. First touchdown of his career, a 103-yard kick return. Nickel Roby-Coleman's been being an absolute ball hawk over the last couple of years. He's had 4 picks and a fumble return for a touchdown over the last 2 seasons. He got another big pick against Blake Bortles on Sunday in the game, which kind of changed momentum. And Connor Barwin has 3 sacks. Aaron Donald's making plays, and they're getting pressure on the quarterback. And they have Cooper Kupp, they have Watkins, they have Woods. Jared Goff is playing solid football. And that's why I'm going to take the Rams. I think the Cardinals, look, they have prettier star players. They have more higher potential players. And the Rams just have a lot of young guns that, may be inexperienced. But this is a Rams team that's gone to London over the last few years. They know this environment. And I just think I trust McVay and this team to have a consistent game plan with Gurley, with their defense, against an offensive line that, even though it's gotten better, I don't know if it's gotten that much better that they can hold the Rams' defensive front. And I just think Carson Palmer, he's not going to play that well. Remember, Case Keenum lit up Minnesota for 300 yards and 3 touchdowns. So if Case Keenum can do that, Carson Palmer can do, Jared Goff can do that I'm sorry, that was against Tampa. Rephrase that. Arizona, at times, Carson Wentz put up 300 yards and 4 touchdowns against them. I don't know if Goff can have that kind of game, but I think he can have a good enough game where he gets about 2 TDs, no interceptions, or maybe 3 TDs and an interception to lead the Rams to a victory. I'm going to take the Cardinals here because I just think they may have found their confidence, they may have found their stride. Who knows? But we'll see. So that's why I like the Cardinals here plus 3.5, but the LA Rams straight up. Next game, Dolphins over Jets. The Jets are a good football team. The New York Jets are a good football team that have shown that they have been basically, besides one half against Oakland, basically been in almost every single game. And they should have been able to tie against the Patriots. Austin Seferian-Jenkins had the touchdown, and even if he bobbled the ball, and went out of bounds, from what the angles I saw, I've seen that play probably over 100 times, there is no clear evidence that that should have been overturned. What are you guys' thoughts on it? Please let me know in the comment section. I'd love to know. But I thought the Jets got robbed of that play, and remember, on the next series, the Patriots go 3 and out, and the Jets kick a field goal. So if that touchdown stands, it's a tie game going into the fourth quarter, and who knows what will happen. I think Josh McCown, though, he's having one of his better career years, but he's still Josh McCown, and that 1 interception late in the second quarter really put the game into the Pats' hands. Though, again, McCown has completed 70% of his passes, 70.1% of his passes, 7 TDs, and 6 picks. But I think that the biggest hindrance for the Jets on Sunday was their running game. They only had 21 carries for 74 yards. Not good enough. And I want to congratulate Buster Screen for getting Tom Brady for his 2nd interception of the year. And he's had now a pick in 1 pick for the Jets in each of his 3 years. But I'm going to take the Dolphins here because the Dolphins are at home. Would I be surprised if the Jets won this game? Not at all. I think the Jets have been clearly the better football team. But if you look at the Dolphins, I've kind of just underestimated them enough. And I think with the home advantage of that crowd and how that defense has been playing, congrats to Rashad Jones, by the way, first pick for him for the Miami Dolphins. And the first interception for the Dolphins all year. And Cutler's 3-2 for the first time since 2013 as a starting quarterback. I just look at the Dolphins and I just see a team that just weirdly can play good football at the worst times. And I know they're motivated from in week 3 when the Jets just smoked them from pillar to post in New York. So I think it's going to be weird. Would I be surprised if the Jets won this game? Not at all. I have more respect for what the Jets have been doing, and they played more solid and consistent football. But I'm just going to take the Dolphins here because they're home. I think Ajayi has some confidence. They're motivated from that. And I think the Dolphins just have more pure talent, and that should be able to get them over the hump against a Jets team that is way overachieving at this point. So that's why I like the Jets here plus 3.5 because I wouldn't be surprised, but I'm going to take the Miami Dolphins straight up. Next game, Vikings over Ravens. The Ravens offense blows. We have scored 3 touchdowns in our last 4 games. In 3 of those games, we scored 1 touchdown or less. We had 2 special team returns touchdowns for the first time since week 12 of the 2015 season. And we can't run the ball. Jerry Macklin's hurt. Perryman has a concussion. Max Williams went down. And Joe Flacco's not doing anything. And this defense, even though it has caused the 2nd most turnovers in the league, we can't capitalize on. And if we can lose to the Bears, who have a solid defense, we definitely can lose to the Minnesota Vikings. because the Minnesota Vikings right now are a sneaky top 10 team, and I believe right now the best team in the NFC North, and they should win that division at this moment. Because Case Keenum is playing solid football. He's had 5 touchdowns and 1 interception. I believe he has 1,134 yards. Jerick McKinnon has 245 yards from scrimmage in his last 2 games and 3 touchdowns. They have the 3rd best rushing defense. They have a good front 7. And I just trust Case Keenum. Case Keenum was able to beat the Baltimore Ravens a few years ago with the Houston Texans. And I think this Minnesota Vikings team just has much talent or has better defensive talent. And if we couldn't do anything on the Bears' defense, I know that we can't do jack squat against the Vikings' defense. Though I think if we can get some turnovers, we have the more experienced quarterback. Flacco at his apex, if he can get there again, is better than Case Keenum. Sure. But I just really like what the Vikings have been doing. They're playing football the way with Sam Bradford they can play football. They can win a lot of games like that. Where if Case Keenum doesn't make mistakes, he doesn't goof up, they can win football games in a solid, inconsistent way. What I like to see the Ravens win, of course. But just after watching us lose to a rookie quarterback, by the way, the only second time that we lost to a rookie quarterback in our franchise history, I have to go with the Minnesota Vikings here, just because I've seen their offense more consistently. Yes, they got a huge break of Aaron Rodgers, but they can cause more turnovers, more havoc, and Case Keenum just is playing better pure football right now than Joe Flacco is. And it's a home game, so they're coming off that win against Green Bay. They definitely want to get confidence over a Baltimore team that is struggling, to say the very least. But these games are going to be fun because the last 3 of these games have come to 1 score. And I remember the one in 09 was off a Hauschka miss, and the one in 13 was the game in the snow where there were 3 scores like in the final 2 minutes. So that's why I like Baltimore here plus 5.5, but I'll take the Vikings straight up. Next game, Steelers over Bengals. The Pittsburgh Steelers, they have their ups and downs. Big Ben Roethlisberger is playing below average, but they were a very good team. I talked about Le'Veon and Antonio earlier with the 700 scrimmage yards plus. They've beaten KC now, 3 straight times. And I just look at the Steelers and I say that this is kind of the win they needed. If they can hope to bring some consistency, they need to beat the Cincinnati Bengals, a team that over the years they've won 16 of the last 21 games. Also against the Chiefs, that was their 7th win against a 5-0 or better team in the NFL since the merger. That's the most in the NFL, and they have the second. And the Steelers have forced the second most sacks in the league with 20. But I think this Bengals team, it could be a bit of a trap, and here's why. I think for the Bengals, in the first 2 games under Ken Zampese, they averaged 4.5 points per game. In the 3 games since, they've averaged 25 points per game. A.J. Green, in 2 of those 3 games, he has 17 receptions for 300 yards and 2 TDs. And first time in a while, A.J. Green has had 3 straight games with a receiving touchdown. If he is making plays, that entire offense can click much better. And they have the 2nd-ranked defense in points and yards. Do I think the Bengals, this is always a team that it's always in the thorn of the Steelers, the Cincinnati Bengals. They always are a competitive, physical team that's coming off a bye, and the Steelers are coming off their biggest win, and now they have to deal with the rumors of Martavius Bryant, their number 2 wide receiver, requesting a trade. I'm going to take the Pittsburgh Steelers here, just because I feel like it's a home game for them. They're coming off that emotion, and they know what happened the last time after they, beat the Ravens. Don't fall flat against another division rival and make us question the Steelers all over again. Get some confidence, give the Steeler fans some hope, and hopefully for Ben Roethlisberger's sake, he can start to elevate his game enough to make the Steelers feel like that legitimate Super Bowl contender that I think everybody knows they can be. But that's why I like Pittsburgh minus 5 and Pittsburgh straight up. Next game, Cowboys over Niners. The Cowboys are the better football team. Even without Zeke, who could serve a 6-game suspension, Darren McFadden, Alfred Morris can run the ball effectively enough. This year, Zeke's averaging 78.2 yards per game. Darren McFadden averaged 68 yards in 2015, a couple years ago. I think Dak Prescott has played really good, solid football. I think this offensive line can, prevent a San Francisco defense that has had some holes. They just let Navarro Bowman go to the Raiders on a 1-year deal. And I just don't have faith in the Niners. I think the Niners, they're going to put up a fight. They're starting their 4th quarterback over the last 2 seasons with 2nd-round pick C.J. Beathard out of the University of Iowa. But I'm gonna take the Cowboys here just because this Cowboys defense is rested. Hopefully they get Sean Lee back, and even if they don't, it's a rookie quarterback playing his first game, and I just think the Cowboys have just enough defensive respect, enough defensive resistance to make Beathard make one or two mistakes, rookie mistakes, that give the Cowboys a win. But the Niners keep it close because that's what the Niners have been doing all year long. You know, I do want to congratulate Elvis Dumerville for leading the team in sacks, and he does have 3.5 sacks. And I think one of the biggest things the Niners have to start doing more is giving Carlos Hyde the football. The last 2 games for him, he's had 21 carries for 39 yards. That's not enough for a guy that through the first 3 or 4 weeks of the season looked like, you know, the Carlos Hyde that everybody wanted him to be. Though I do think for the Cowboys, one of their biggest problems is their overall defense. They were 5th in points and 19th in yards last year. This year they are 29th in points and 31st in yards. So the Niners, they're going to be able to move the ball. But I think again, just like what's happened, I trust the Cowboys to grind out a win over a Niner team that just hasn't been able to find a way to win. So that's why I like San Francisco plus 4.5, and I'll take the Dallas Cowboys straight up. Next game, the Los Angeles Chargers. Notice how I'm not saying chokers. Chargers over the Denver Broncos. And if you want to, I will give the Chargers more credit. I will call them the Los Angeles Clutchers because that's what they've been over the last 2 weeks. They've been a clutch football team. For the second time in 2 years, they won back-to-back one-score games, and they're now 11-19 in their last 30 games in one-score games. So good for them. Melvin Gordon's doubled his receiving touchdowns for his career. He had 2 going in the first 2 years. Now he has 4 this year. And it was for the LA Chargers, they have Melvin Ingram, who has 7.5 sacks, which is impressive. They have the worst rushing defense in the NFL. So for C.J. Anderson, who had the lowest amount of rushing yards for his career since Week 10 of the 2015 season, he should be able to run the ball pretty well. And then when I look at it, you look at the Chargers and the Broncos. The Broncos coming off an embarrassing loss. First time since 1966 they lost to an 0-5 football team. Their running defense, which had held running backs like Melvin Gordon, LaShawn McCoy. Melvin Gordon had 18 attempts for 54 yards. Ezekiel Elliott, 9 attempts for 8 yards. LaShawn McCoy, 14 attempts for 21 yards. Marshawn Lynch, 9 attempts for 12 yards. Then Orleans Darkwa for 21 carries for 117 yards. That's absurd. And the Denver Broncos are having an offensive problem. They've scored 3 offensive touchdowns in the last 3 games, and they've lost 2 of those 3. But that's why I'm going to take the Chargers. I think with, Emmanuel Sanders is out. Menelik Watson, their right tackle, should be out. Simeon's coming in with a sprained shoulder. He should play, but he's not going to be 100%. And I just think this Chargers team, they have some confidence for the first time. They saw that, hey, we can close games. We have a kicker now that can kick field goals, and we can win games in a good way. So I think this game can be close, but I'd be surprised if Denver won, not at all. But I'm going to trust the Chargers here in this situation. I feel like they finally have turned it around, and they have confidence that, hey, we can close football games out. And just with how the Broncos have been on the road and how they've been offensively over the last 3 weeks, I'm going to take the Chargers here just because the Chargers have been the more consistent team all year. And I think they're finally getting the confidence to say we can close games out. Which will make the Chargers dangerous, in my opinion, but we'll see. So that's like the LA Chargers -2 and the LA Chargers straight up. Next game, Seahawks over Giants. I think the Giants, look, they got off the schneid. Ben McAdoo's off the hot seat for this week. But this is not Denver. This is Seattle. Seattle has the same kind of defensive aspects. They're a little bit more banged up. You're going up against a worse offensive line, so that's good for the Giants' defense. But you're going up against a more mature quarterback, a better quarterback. They hopefully will get Thomas Rawls and C.J. Prosise to play this week. And I think the Seahawks can go out into New York, getting the huge monkey off their back with a road win over the Rams. I think Seattle will get this victory in a tough game because, I think for Pete Carroll and the Seahawks, that was the best thing to happen was for the Seattle Seahawks for the Denver Broncos to lose to the Giants. Because Pete Carroll can say to those guys, those Giants are not sleeping Giants. They're still awake. They still can play football. And they showed that if they're firing, they can play good football. Eli Manning threw his lowest attempts for a win since Week 17 of the 2013 season. So, good for him. And the Giants only threw 2 receptions to wide receivers the whole game. And Seattle's won 3 straight games against the Giants. If if the Seahawks would have lost to the Rams, I might have considered taking the Giants. It would have been a huge long shot, but since they beat the Rams, they have a little bit of road confidence. And going against a Giants team that may feel that they're a little bit ahead, or they still have a chance. I think Seattle, with just kind of what's at stake with Rodgers going down, they'll make that statement saying, for the Philadelphia Eagles, we are the second best team that can provide the biggest challenge for you to get to the Super Bowl. Should be a great game, and hey, if the Giants win this game, we're really going to look at the Giants' schedule and say, can they keep spoiling people? And when is the spoiling going to turn to contending? We'll have to wait and see, but, and I would not be, it'd be a little surprising, but the Giants play well. Look, Seattle was really bad on the road. So, but that's why I like the Giants here, plus 5.5. But the Seattle Seahawks straight up. Next game, Patriots over Falcons. The Pats do what they do. The Falcons did what they did. The Falcons have won seven. The Falcons have blew a 17-point lead for the 5th time under Matt Ryan. Julio Jones has no touchdowns through 5 games. He's not getting the ball nearly enough. They keep throwing the ball. He's thrown, I think, more interceptions at this point in the year than he did all of last year. And I'm just not selling this Falcons team because, you can lose to Buffalo, fine. Buffalo's been a good defensive team all year. They've been struggling. But you can't lose to Miami. A team that I thought, okay, with Jay Cutler, they could be better. But you have a 17-point lead. You can't let Jay Cutler and his offense be able to score 20 points in a row and you can't get anything. And with the Pats, again, you could talk about that touchdown thing, but the Pats find ways to win. And I just have faith in the Pats that they'll find another way to win. It could be very Super Bowl-like because this is the biggest game for Atlanta all year, and this will be the one that they're most motivated about. But I'm taking the Pats here. I trust this team. I trust this organization, and they're going to keep finding consistent ways to win. Should be a great game, though. So that's why I like New England here. -3 and New England straight up. And finally, Eagles over Washington. I think the Washington Redskins have played. They have played 5 good, or 1 below average, and 4 good to really good games of football. I think the Redskins have played solid football, though again they've had to, had the opportunity to almost lose against the Niners. The only team that was impressive was the Raiders, but now that you've seen the Raiders, that's not as impressive. And they almost beat the Chiefs, but they lost that one. And I'm trying to get, who was their other win? They lost to Philly, and they beat the Rams. That was probably the most impressive win, beating the LA Rams. But I'm going to take the Philadelphia Eagles here. I feel the Eagles have played the 6 most consistent games of football. Carson Wentz is an MVP candidate. They're running the ball really well. And the defenders they have in Russell Douglas. I'm trying to get Russell Douglas. Jalen Mills, Patrick Robinson, you have Malcolm Jenkins, you have Fletcher Cox coming back. They should get Ronald Darby here back maybe this week. They're only going to get better with the defenders they're missing. They have one of the better offensive lines. Lane Johnson is going to come back there. And I just don't see any flaws for this Eagles team right now. They have played the 6 most consistent games of football, and they won last week. So I'm just going to stick with them as the best team in football. And if I believe you're the best team in football, you should be able to beat most people on your schedule. Should be a great game. This is one of the better Monday Night Football games in a while, and I think Washington, they're playing for the division, because if they lose, Philadelphia can basically wrap up the division. But I think Philadelphia, they're at home, they're motivated. I think, Doug Peterson and them, they're not going to read their press clippings. They're not going to come out overconfident. But I think they're just going to play really good, solid, consistent football, and I don't see a team right now in the NFL that is better than the Philadelphia Eagles at this point. So that's why I like Philadelphia -4.5 and Philadelphia straight up. So those are my thoughts, comments. So those are my thoughts for all the games this week. Like, comment, rate, subscribe. Please check out the NFL YouTube prognosticators page for guys like Keith Bailey, Half Moon's Picks, Warren Gremberg, The Wise Guys, Geo Knows, Hatbox Nation, and all those other great prods. Please check them out. TJ Harmon. Please check them out. They're all good guys and gals. They all do really good stuff. And that's it. So good luck to all players, coaches, teams, fantasy players, and fellow prognosticators. And until next week, this is Matt the NFL Fanatic signing off. Until then, so long.